As we start to think forward to the year 2022, a lot of us also need to take some time to take a look back at the past year. It can be difficult, especially when we had so many big changes coming in that year. And so we're bringing in artist Nicole right here with us on Live Now from Fox. And Nicole, you really do help guide people through their own journeys. So as we start to look forward, one of the key messages you wanted to tell our viewers is be sure to look backwards first before you put all these new expectations on the new year.
Yes, it's important to take some time between, the few days after Christmas and before the new year to just land and look back. The most common thing that will come up will be probably what didn't work out, what feels heavy, some loss, maybe some sadness, some grief. That's just common for all of us, for those things to arise. And we still are navigating through very interesting times. You've navigated through kind of one of the largest holidays, of the year. And so a lot of heavy things will come up, but it's also an opportunity to stop and say, how far have I come? And really see some of those things that you had chosen to do, how those are kind of a big deal. If you didn't have your normal workout routine, but you took some walks, that's a big deal. These simple things that we're so used to doing, have really kind of changed over the last couple of years. And so I invite my students to, allow those heavy things to come up and meet them with forgiveness. And we can talk about that in a moment, but then also take a moment to, sit with the journal, sit with your significant other, sit with your family, a good friend, and just kind of try to look back and see what has all unfolded and stop and see those good things too.
And you mentioned forgiveness. That's a huge piece because I do feel like some people have just been holding some grudges ever since the pandemic hit. So that dates back 2 years ago almost now that hit here. But I think it's more than that too. It's forgiving yourself for maybe not reaching last year's goals. It's forgiving yourself for maybe not getting to do as much as you thought you might be able to do. So let's touch on that too. How do we give ourselves a little bit of forgiveness heading into this new year?
Well, forgiveness, in a way I share with my students, is to see it as 2 words, FOR-GIVE, and start to really see the word give. Give love, give peace, give light, whatever it is that you resonate with, give that away into yourself through the affirmation, I forgive and release. It's kind of a magic tool in my toolbox that I teach my students that you are going to have heavy things laying on your heart and your mind, and you are the only one that can choose to give love away in. It's not an easy thing to do, and it's also in a way not a hard thing to do. It's that of a practice. Practicing, of course, is hard, but I tell my students, use this affirmation and fill in the blank with whatever it is that you want to release or let go of. So instead of just saying, by 2021, you were a bummer of a year, which, we know that kind of as a whole, we can kind of gives the year a bad rap. But the truth is that, the year has taught us a lot. It's shown us a lot, and it has opened our eyes to a different way, since it is kind of that second year of what we've been going through. And so you can forgive and release the disappointment you might carry. You can forgive and release hard things that have taken place in your year. You can forgive and release yourself from the momentum and the way that we used to do things. We all know it doesn't feel the same. And it's because we are dealing with something that is just very new and very heavy to navigate. And so it is about giving love away into what it is that you're carrying. It isn't about specifically how you see forgiveness of, I need to forgive someone for something. It's really about you choosing to give love away in and help you see the situation differently.
And when we're talking about that too, Nicole, there's a lot of people who then know that one of your practices is the I Am Affirmations. So once we kind of forgive some of the things that happened, then you can start to almost see yourself more clearly and see, you know what, I am proud of some of those small accomplishments that I did in the past year.
Yes, when you forgive, you create space within, and the natural laws is for space to get filled. Think of your closet. You empty out clothes that no longer you want to wear, and in a week, 2 months, a year, it's already full again. And that's kind of that space, right? It just fills up naturally. So we want to fill the space that we create in our mind and our heart with something positive, something that can help us, something that can help us shift the way we think. It kind of can shift those thought patterns. And so I Am Affirmations is a foundational practice that I carry. And yes, sometimes it can seem a little, fluffy and cheesy, but really the truth is we need something like this to help our minds, to help, strengthen what it is that we most need. So I invite my students to create I Am Affirmations, acknowledging, in this case, acknowledging how far you've come. So, writing down, I am proud of myself, asking your kids, say, I'm proud of myself, and really shining light on yourself, because if we don't do that, nobody will. And, it may seem a little bit like boasting, but that's not the case in this sense. It's important for us to lift ourselves up. And then from there, I have my students create I am statements of what they need. So going into this new year, see how you're feeling. Maybe you're just not feeling very patient right now. So I am patient is your affirmation. Maybe you feel a little bit disconnected from yourself. I am connected to myself. You don't have to believe them. You don't have to, you can be mad at those affirmations in a sense of like, that's not what I feel right now, because we're writing them down because it's a practice. So when we write these statements down, there's power in starting to see these new thoughts, these new ways of thinking. And I often, invite my students to write these on a Post-it note and put it somewhere in your space. My nephew, who's 6 years old, has a long list on his refrigerator, and he goes, to my sister, let's go ahead and read our affirmations out because they feel good. They can seem fluffy and you probably won't want to do them. And I'm aware of all those feelings, and I'm very honest with my students of, yeah, you're not going to want to do this. That list in that picture is 108 I Am Affirmations that I work towards reading out on a daily basis to help me. So it's about asking yourself, how do you want to feel moving slowly into 2022, forgiving those heavy things and taking those forgiving statements and making some I Am Affirmations to say, hey, the truth is these positive statements, this is the truth of me and who I am. We all have these good characteristics, but we need to practice them. We need to do some work around them. And so taking a look at what you need and writing it as if you already have it.
And I really like to, Nicole, this kind of fits in as well with creating a vision for yourself. One of the things we talked about was as you're writing these messages down, you're kind of looking ahead to how you want to continue to feel into the next year. So it's not always about setting that goal and having 15 of them and sticking to them on day one. It's all about kind of looking ahead. How do I want next year to feel for me? What do I want to come out for myself next year?
Yes, so that is a practice of vision. I just created a new online course that's called Cultivate 365 that will help you work on creating a vision list. It's nothing more than a list, and you write down things that you want to have, experience, as well as how do you want to feel. That's a really important topic because you can bring in all of these things in your life. But if you don't match it with how you want to feel, that you could accomplish something that you've been wanting, but then feel kind of, heavy or sad or down because we didn't match those feelings. So I invite my students to get out a piece of paper and write 2022 vision and ask yourself, how do I want to feel? And just write it as if you're writing a grocery list. And then, look at things of, what do you want to have or experience? I know for me, I want to travel and see a good friend in Hawaii. I know that I want to cultivate long distance friendships, by phone. I want to work on, increasing my strength and my health and wellness again. And really, it's about forgiving the things that maybe didn't turn out the way you wanted in 2021, and then saying, okay, let's see this as a practice. Let's see these topics with love, as if you were talking to a 6-year-old child, writing them down, not worrying about how they'll happen, when they'll happen, not worrying if you don't have the resources or finances, but putting them down on that vision list and just holding space for them to the fancy word of manifest, come into your life. Because when we start thinking about these things, they really have come from our heart. I call them the desires of your heart. If you get a desire to want to take a trip with your significant other, yes, you might think that's just an idea, but the truth is it's coming from your heart space and it's meeting your mind. And so putting it down on paper is that next step to start putting energy into it, and put that vision list somewhere where you can see it. From there, take that vision list and break it down into little intentions. Not goals, not resolutions. We forgive the R word and the G word, okay? Forgive those things, forgive the expectations. And each month in my new course, I just talk about take an index card or a Post-it note and just ask yourself, what do I want to focus on this year, or this month, from your vision list? And you'll have to do some forgiving. Most likely when February rolls around, you might have not have really started anything in January, but that's okay. You have 365 days to let your vision unfold.
And I think one of the things you just touched on too was it's okay to lean on someone else to help keep you into these affirmations, keep you into these measurable, and you said don't use the word goals, but intentions. So that's one thing, is maybe reach out for help with maybe a friend, a family member, a coworker, or even you, Nicole. I know you've helped me on a number of occasions, and you really can help people not only find their vision, but then keep them accountable and continuing to practice. And it doesn't have to be every day, as you just said. It could just be every once in a while, check in with yourself.
That's the key little component there is when I have my students say they have a daily practice, I let my students know that this doesn't mean it has to happen daily. We call it daily to help us with that little monkey mind that we want to have something and do something every day. That's just human nature. We want to stay with things, but life has moving pieces. And we all know that we can get 3-4 days under our belt and then all of a sudden we fall off the horse and then we want to quit. But if you remind yourself, wait a second, I'm just practicing. I'm just going to go towards this with love. I'm just going to see it as a practice, just like if you go to a music practice, or your kids go to a sports practice, it's a practice. And so when you start to just say, okay, I'm going to practice my way through 2022, I'm just going to practice eating healthy. I'm going to practice being gentler to, myself. I'm going to practice being more patient with my kids. I'm going to practice, speaking up and sharing some ideas at work. You start to just go, it's okay if it doesn't look the way that you want it to look. It's just about making these tiny little small steps, and along the way being your own cheerleader and saying, you know what, no matter what, I'm doing good. I am exactly where I need to be, even though maybe my plans aren't working out. We can forgive and release plans. And just slowly navigating into this. So February 1st is nothing more than, that whole week of January, the whole month of January. Just give yourself an opportunity to just land and start jotting down, that vision list. Call a friend and say, hey, what do you desire to have in 2022? Could you want to sit down and make a list with me? Talk to your partner and say, hey, could you sit down with me for 2 minutes? And what do you want to have take place in the year? How do you want to feel? And, it's not an easy thing to do, but it's the work. And we desire right now to do the work.
Don't be afraid of doing the work, and especially when it comes to our emotions, our feelings, sometimes it can be tough, but they can lean on you for help. We do appreciate you helping walk us through what to look forward to here in this next year, but also forgiving the past. Artist Nicole Ray joining us here on Live Now from Fox. Thanks so much for being here and guiding us through this process.
Thank you, Christy.
And don't forget, you can celebrate, ring in the new year, seeing fireworks all across the country with us right here on Live Now from Fox. We will be bringing you some great pictures from coast to coast and even around the world as we all ring in 2022. All right, with that being said, we are going to